Welcome, everybody. My name is Maralee Burnett. I am your astrologer, back with the messages for the week of February 23rd, which is going to be a very uncomfortable Mercury retrograde week. And it has been causing chaos for the last 3 weeks as it's been moving forward. So I can only imagine the chaos that is going to ensue over the next several weeks. In fact, I had to record this again because magically everything I said was not recorded in my original session. So let's see if I can still cover all of the details this time with my voice actually being heard. Something about Mercury and communication and our voices needing to be heard. That's going to require a little extra work. Hopefully you've been following me and you know that I have a very weird sense of humor and I love to joke around. But this week isn't about joking around. It's actually going to be pretty intense. There's a lot of conflicts and it's Mercury retrograde. So it could get a little bit bumpy. So it's good that you're here. If this is your first time coming here, you could consider clicking on that subscribe button. That way you get notifications every time I post new content, which is typically every weekend. But I also post new content every day. So if you haven't been following me, you'll want to, so that you see a new tarot card message that I post every week. Actually, I post every day, and in that I give you a little astrology note for the day as well, so you really get a good feeling for the energy and how it could be affecting you on a day-to-day basis. But also go out to my website, maraleeburnett.com, join my newsletter there, and then that way you get a free mini astrology workbook for 2026 that you can use with the details from your birth chart to plan ahead for every event in the year ahead, as far as the major ones go, which this Mercury retrograde would be in there. And you can see what house it's going to be impacting for you by using that chart. You also see where all of the eclipses are, every new moon, every full moon. You just are going to fill it out yourself. Of course, if you'd prefer I fill it out for you, you can book a session with me and I can help you do that. We should do a big breakdown 2-hour session so that we get through all of those details. So check that out again, maraleeburnett.com. And the link will be down below to all of my written content that's most important and supports the video that we are going to cover in detail today. So thank you in advance for subscribing. So hopefully, I'm going to keep checking to make sure it's recording my voice. We are going to take a look from the good old Astro Gold software at Monday, February 23rd. Now, there aren't really any new events occurring until we hit Thursday of this week. So what you're seeing between now and Thursday is all the preliminary event energy. Now, of course, even though an exact event happens on a particular day, does not mean it won't affect us in the days leading up to it. So what are we sitting in? What are we waiting to see happen this week? Well, several things. Most importantly, of course, and wanting my attention, is the Mercury retrograde. So here we are. Mercury will station and get ready to go retrograde. And it's not going to get much further than it is now. It will move a little bit further ahead, but here's where we are starting to understand where we need to dive deeper into a particular house in our chart. Now, Mercury himself, the little fun jokester that he is, prefers to be on either the ground from a Virgo's perspective or in the air with Gemini energy, which it rules both signs. Doesn't really enjoy having to be a submarine with this visit through the sign of Pisces. Now, this is why things get so confusing when Mercury's here, because it's at fall. It can't think clearly. The emotions get in the way. Neptune's energy in there still makes things foggy and confusing. So this isn't the time to be trying anything brand new that you have no experience with. This is going to be hard to learn type of energy. Unless you happen to have your Mercury in a water sign, then you might not have a problem with this. Or you have your Mercury in retrograde, then this energy feels great to you. But for a lot of other people, things and details can get a little fuzzy and really confusing, especially these few days as Mercury is slowing down, and that kind of stirs the waters and makes things really murky and confusing. So don't sign anything on this day. Don't start anything major on this day. It will not turn out as expected. And of course, we have the next few days to understand what that will mean for you and to start to get a clearer picture in some ways about what the last 3 weeks have been putting you through and why. Then we really get to dig deep and do the work. So this is, again, just the preview of what's to come this week. And of course, we'll talk about that Thursday as this goes retrograde. Also, the things that we're going to be watching this week is this square between Mars and Uranus. So something today is going to grab our attention because the moon will be here. So trust your intuition. This is the kind of energy that says, I went a different way to work than I normally do, and I ended up avoiding a crash that was horrific for someone else. Trust your intuition. If it's telling you to change something, could be something financial, could be not buying a normal beauty product you buy. These are all Venus themes, right? Not buying a particular food you always buy. Like whatever your little gut instinct is about doing something completely different than what you normally would have done, you need to do that thing. This energy is going to build in intensity each day this week. And so when you feel roadblocks this week, or you feel your intuition saying, hey, let's do something a little different, you need to pay attention to that, because a square is where we come to a place where we have to stop or we're going to crash into one another. And so crashes, explosions, attacks on electricity, on the internet, cyber war, all of those are possible because of Mars, the warrior, in Aquarius. There can be attacks on the water, from the water, underneath the water that are obviously going to be very shocking and surprising. And of course, we also have this energy occurring within the US's chart, within Iran's chart, within Israel's chart. And of course, we're already seeing all of the commotion going on with Iran and the need for the deal. So it's a volatile week as a collective and then as an individual. So especially if you have energies in and around this 24 to 29 degrees even of either Aquarius or Taurus, those personal planets are getting the squeeze on them, and it can make you really uncomfortable to force you to make a change, which you should do. But it can also make you more volatile and more easily to rattle, and you just don't take the bait. It can also be a lot of energy around motivating people and groups to stand up, to protest, but it will not go well. And I just do not recommend any kind of conflicts, group get-togethers around conflicts I would just not advise them. So it's some pretty intense energy as we get started this week. And we can't forget that we've just had this major reset with the coming together on the 20th of Neptune and Saturn. So this is the beginning of a new 36-year chapter. The last one happened in 1989, where we had Saturn meeting with Neptune in the sign of Capricorn. So if you think about Capricorn, 10th house, success, high achievement, hard work, financial institutions, government institutions, rules, regulations. And we're already hearing with Neptune and Saturn in the sign of Aries that some of those rules and regulations should be dissolved. So there'll be a battle for what's right. So that's, again, just already you start to see some of these themes. But in our own lives, this is much more personal because Capricorn is much bigger than us as individuals, Aries energy. This is about restructuring ourselves. So we saw a lot of governments go through restructuring, a lot of financial institutions. We saw a lot of crashes in the market when we had the energy going through there for the last 36 years. We saw mergers. We saw companies that went out of business, all of that, big picture things. Now, this is back to the individual, Aries, first house, how we rise in the world as an individual. The individual's choices are going to become center stage going forward. Less important are the oligarchs of the world, the mega millionaires of the world, gazillionaires, and instead the focus becomes on the person that you are, what you want in life going forward, and how you have to change in order to get there, in order to get the dream life that you want, even the dream body, the dream vision that you give to other people of who you are. There's things that we have to release and let go of in order to be this strong, disciplined individual going forward. So this is a very different look. And for all of the cardinal signs, which are Aries and Cancer and Capricorn, and don't forget Libra, this energy is going to, challenge you. Of course, as an Aries individual, you've got a lot of focus and attention on you. And this starts especially a 2-year journey just while Saturn's here of rebuilding yourself and rebuilding your image in some way. And then all those cardinal signs are in a square or an opposition to this reset moment. I was calling it like the Big Bang. So was there a real big bang on the 20th? Not necessarily, but in subtle ways, yes, there was. And those topics that were coming out about individuals in leadership roles and positions, that's going to gain momentum. And it will take these 2 years to fully unfold and for those people to be held accountable. But it's going to pick up in spiciness as we get into the summer. So just you wait and see what's yet to come. So that's just, some fun ways to start the week. But it's that moon in Taurus where it enjoys being that really helps us tune into our emotional self and pay attention, like I said, to where you're being guided to change direction. And then please do change direction. I promise you will be very happy that you did. So let's move ahead just briefly through these each next days. And mostly what we're going to see is the moon's movement. The moon every month forms T-squares with the nodes. So again, if you're being guided to make some kind of a change, if you get some information today that suddenly sends you in a new direction, go. You don't need to question it. You literally need to just make the change. And then as we move into Wednesday, again, same thing. Only thing that's moving these few days significantly is the moon. And today, after having that difficult conversation with Mars to kick off the week, now the moon is joining with Mars. So there can be conflicts that start the week, and then now there can be new partnerships formed as a result of whatever that conflict was. So again, anything that you're doing, you've got to tune in and trust your intuition, because this conflict between Mars and Uranus is growing in intensity as Mars at 26 degrees and Uranus at 27 are getting closer and closer together. And as I mentioned, Mercury's slowing down, gotten a little further into the 22 degree at 32 minutes of the sign, but there's not any big dramatic movement this week. And then we get to the culmination of all of these preview energies on Thursday. And that is when Mercury slows down to go retrograde. So now, this is at 22 degrees, the master builder number, an angel number, that says, in order to build this, we have to dig deeper. Our foundation has to go down deeper for us to create what this is. Of course, Mercury rules communication, it rules thinking. Mercury in the sign of Pisces, right? Pisces is a healing energy. It's an artistic energy. It is a spiritual energy. And it's the last sign of the zodiac. So it also is associated with faraway places, which can be foreign countries. It can be the spirit realm, right? You see a lot of endings, a lot of people leaving that have chosen to do so at this time, because this is opening a doorway to the other side. A portal to the other side opens with this Piscean energy, if that is certain people's choices. So there are likely to be some pretty dramatic endings that occur over these next several weeks. It's a great time, if you're not trying to end something, to revive something that you had a strong spiritual connection to in the past. It could be your gifts. It could be your creative gifts in particular that it's time to revive. It could be something to do with medicine and healing. Maybe a combination of, being a spiritual wellness coach, something along those lines, that caught your eye in the past, but you didn't pursue it. Well, now would be a great time to go back to doing that and going, deep into studying what your options are over these next several weeks. Now, what's magical about this Mercury retrograde, even though Mercury's at fall here, it hates it, right? Mercury in a submarine isn't fun. Can't joke around down there when you're just surrounded by water instead of people, right? There is something Mercury doesn't enjoy here. However, I still feel like there's magic in this retrograde energy because of all of the touch points to energy connections that have occurred within the other planets that are amplified now at this retrograde. So we started the pre-shadow back several weeks ago. At the time of the solar eclipse, Venus was at the pre-shadow moment here, 8 degrees of Pisces. Now the sun is. The North Node is our mission here, what we are meant to grow and learn. North Node in Pisces for the collective, right? This is a collective journey with the nodes because they change signs about every 19 months or so. This is the end of this journey, this lesson, because the nodes move backwards. So we're in the last decan, the last 10 degrees or decan. And that is going to take us through July when the node moves into Aquarius from the North Node's perspective and into Leo from the South Node. Huge changes coming. I'm going to read my article for 2026 on that. But today, the sun shines a light on whatever lessons we're supposed to be learning about healing, about releasing toxicity, about letting go of the past and allowing the light to show us the way to the future. The sun's what helps us succeed. It, of course, provides us what we need to survive. So there's something maybe about our survival that we are learning from the sun at this time, but it's very much tied to something that you were shown at the time of the solar eclipse as well. And it's fate. So when the sun shines a light on your fated path, your fated destiny, especially if you happen to have personal planets here at 8 degrees of Virgo or Pisces, you want to pay attention. You want to do the work. You want to follow through on whatever's being shown for you. So again, the nodes are activated with Mercury's journey through the sign of Pisces. So all of the work that you're doing that's going on, even if it's just going on around you, is being led by fate. Now, whenever Mercury changes direction, things get foggy and fuzzy. And so these next few days, or from the previous few days, all of this week can feel very confusing and frustrating, like, having to redo your video before you get a chance to post it. I'm not angry. So whatever the reason, there's a purpose. So I imagine I missed something in my first recording that I will do a better job of explaining the second time through, or somebody didn't like my message that I recorded the first time and were trying to silence me, and I'm not going to be silenced because, of course, I am doing the work instead of getting frustrated and putting the message out there again anyway. And that's likely because of what I'm about to talk about, because of this energy with Mars and Uranus today, which is also exact at the time Mercury's going retrograde, says that this is a major conflict, one that will go on over at least the next 3 weeks, likely the next 6. And it won't be comfortable work that we have to do. So, Mars is war. Mars is attacks. Mars is aggression. And in the sign of Aquarius, this is large groups of people under attack and attacking. That's this energy. Now, they could be attacking the financial markets because of Uranus in the sign of Taurus. They could be somehow the weather is creating these attacks. It can be the internet. It can be the water. It can be in the water because Aquarius is the water bearer. So, if it was me, I would make sure that all of those things are safe and protected. I would not take any risks with finances. I don't think it's a good time to be in the cryptocurrency because Uranus is money that's innovative. I don't think it would be a bad idea to make sure you have an extra case of water, that the propane tanks are filled in your barbecue grills, that you have a backup power pack for all of your devices, that you make sure your passwords are all safe and secure. It's just a good time to be mindful because, as I mentioned, Mercury's going to be underneath, digging things up, and details and emotions and the oceans. This can be very explosive energy as far as creating earthquakes, volcanoes, we had 2 years ago when we last had Mars squaring with Uranus. Was again extremely volatile energy. There was lots of conflicts over money. I think that was one of the other government shutdowns that was going on during that time frame. So that's likely to escalate here in the US. And the violence and the attacks between countries was also at pretty much an all-time high. So that is the energy. It's not good. And we need to make sure on a personal level that you're protecting yourself, your own energy. And all of those things I mentioned are ways that you can do this. And do any of those things hurt you to have on hand, even though nothing may happen? I don't think they do. So why not spend a little extra time making sure if the power grid was attacked, for instance, that you would be able to easily manage through, several days without power, without water, without the internet. Dear God, what will we do with ourselves if we didn't have access to the internet? But it's a real possibility because of how volatile this energy is at this time. So Thursday is the peak of that energy, and whatever's happening now is definitely faded, and it can be a big emotional day because of the fact that the moon is speaking in harmony with the North Node and the Sun. It's also going to be with Jupiter, and whenever the moon's with Jupiter can be a big emotional day. Of course, after squaring the nodes now, the North Node is speaking in harmony with them. But there is definitely this element of the past with Jupiter being retrograde, with Mercury being retrograde, and with the Sun in contact with, of course, the South Node. These are all things that we have to reconsider that have us looking to the past. So it's a big energy day, and it is going to be a very volatile day. And I'm just going to say that if you can avoid being in situations that are risky at all, do that. So it's not a day to go out and protest and be among groups that are protesting. It is a day to take a look at your own chart and look at where you have these energies in conflict with one another, and do your best to make changes, to be changed, so that this conflict doesn't feel like a personal attack on you in some way. So, Taurus energy, ruled by Venus. Venus, who's sitting here in Pisces, about to meet with Mercury and give Mercury some more information, some more details, so Mercury can go dig deep for them. Women, secrets, files. Just saying. Probably going to hear a lot about that over the next several weeks. And that's all I'm going to say on that topic. So, Uranus rules the sky, rules lightning. It's about unexpected things. So be ready this week. Expect the unexpected. Don't make hard and fast commitments to anything. Expect things to change. Expect the rug to be ripped out from underneath your feet and things to be more difficult than necessary, in my opinion. But do the work anyway. And then just keep sending out love, send out positive energy, prepare yourself as best as you can. But it's just going to be one of those weeks that we look back on and realize we could add to the problem or be the solution. And I would suggest working hard at being the solution. But yes, Thursday's going to be a very big day. Between Israel, between Iran, between the U.S. Yeah. Let's hope maybe somebody smart and decides to come up with a way through this that doesn't have to be violent or volatile. Okay, that's Thursday. Just a little thing. Okay, then we're going to move ahead to Friday. And Friday, that's when that conversation starts to build between Venus and Mercury. So again, this is maybe a woman who is speaking up or speaking out, who has details about the past that have been hidden. And then it's just going to start the ball rolling. This isn't everything being solved now, but it is a missing piece to the puzzle that is going to move things forward. And of course, Mars and Uranus are still very much in conflict on Friday. But we do see Neptune move off of that 0 degree point. So the reset, the Genesis moment, the Big Bang moment is now settling down and starting to produce some little tiny results. So maybe in your own life, you've been starting to explore a particular topic, something that you've wanted to do for yourself for a long time, and now you feel more confident that this is the way forward for you. You still have a lot of research to do. I'm not saying it's time to run and jump. I'm just saying this might be when you see where the signs start going, yes, yep, you're right. This is the right way. You picked the right path. Keep going and go slowly. Go ever so slowly today. But it is a feeling that there's something that we can finally move forward on. And again, just remember, people can use the energy to confuse you. So this is why we don't need to make any big major decisions at this time, because the energy with Mercury in the sign of Pisces is still very confusing. And it's great if you want to paint with watercolors. Fabulous to do that. Not so great if you want to sign something on the dotted line. And basically when it happens during Mercury retrograde, whatever the agreement is, it's not real. So this whole nuclear deal, trying to do it during a Mercury retrograde isn't going to work anyway, because they would just not stay true to it. So it's not the time to push. It's not the time to fight. It's the time to figure out how to dissolve our differences. Do I think that's going to happen? No. But in your own life, it can. So be the energy in a positive way and lead the way from your own life's example, and don't get sucked into this crazy conflict that's coming up. That's what we see here on Friday. As Saturday, again, the story just continues. Mars is beginning to march forward. You still have, like I said, Mercury sitting at 22 degrees, but it's already gaining some momentum, moving backwards, and Venus joins in still, but is getting ready to move on. So there is a chance to rebuild something, but you got to go deep. You got to dig down into the foundation and tear out what isn't supporting you and then replace it with what does. And so you might still be seeing something, still be feeling into what that might be. But again, we're moving ahead very, very slowly. Okay. And as we finish up the week, it's March 1st. Unbelievable. Where did the first 2 months of this year go? And it's not going to slow down, right? We just kicked off a fire horse year in a 1 year. All the things that say things are going to move fast. And even though Saturn doesn't love being in the sign of Aries, because Aries is trying to rush Saturn, well, Saturn rules time. So time will feel like it's moving faster. It may not feel good that it's moving faster because here's Saturn trying to put on the brakes And those brakes are going to get down to the metal before we get to the end of this transit. But you can know how to manage the energy and when to slow down and when to speed up. And it's going to feel like kind of a back and forth year where things move fast and then we slow down. Then they move fast and we slow down. And that's just whenever Saturn leans in and forcibly says, no, slow down. You're not building the foundation the way you should before you launch this. Now, making things more intense on Sunday is Mars hitting that critical 29 degree, that degree where I say you're being tested. We call it an anaretic degree. It is the final culmination of the last 6 weeks of work that Mars has been doing and you have been doing with the help of this Martian energy in whatever house this represents for you. So a lot of networking, a lot of friend get-togethers, a lot of things going on in the internet, humanitarian events. All of those things are what has been possible, and water movement being very aggressive. Now we've seen it in the form of snow, we've seen avalanches, we've seen horrible accidents because of them. And of course, Mars rules accidents. So here's another day where you need to be extremely careful if you are traveling because of the volatility of Mars just at 29 degrees and it's still squaring to Uranus. So this, again, just be extremely careful if you have to travel on this day. Slow down, no rushing, and extremely careful around water or any water elements, whether it's snow or rain or rivers or oceans. Be very careful. Okay? And that's the energy that we are going to end the week on. So as I mentioned, it's an intense week and we just need to be careful and we can expect change, unexpected changes. And then back to fate, having ownership of what's going on is the full moon lunar eclipse in the sign of Virgo. So this is really a culmination point of the work that you started in 2025 as the nodes shifted into Pisces and Virgo. So there's some major part of the story that is concluding for you at this time. And whenever it's a full moon lunar eclipse with the south node, we have to let something go. We are releasing things. Things are being eclipsed out of our life so that we can move on. So this, again, can be kind of a shocking letting go energy. And because it's visible here in the United States, I think that there can be something here that, we are physically letting go of. Again, it can be earth, it can be health issues, it could be work related, right? All of these Virgo topics and anything that has an extreme amount of control, that's where we could see a big change happening. Now, remember, about every 19 years, the nodes come back, the eclipses form where they were before, but of course the energy shifts and changes because of the supporting players, which is what I call the other planets that are involved. And this eclipse has the support of Jupiter. Now you're going to say, but Jupiter's a good planet. Only good things will happen. Jupiter's a teacher. And if there are lessons that we are ignoring, then Jupiter will blow them up so big and make them so ridiculous that if you keep your head in the sand any longer, then Jupiter's lessons are not gentle. And so, where do you want to fall on that storyline? That's what we're going to uncover as we get to the eclipse. So we'll talk more about that next week. But of course, if you want to get ready now go out to my website, of course, MaraleeBurnett.com, and take a look at the article that I've already written about this upcoming lunar eclipse. There's a breakdown for every sign. Of course, what is going to happen. You could look back on 2007 when we last had this set of eclipses for some idea what kind of closure did you have back then? It's different. It's not exactly the same, but some of the themes might feel familiar. So you can take a look at that year in your memory photos and see what is coming up for you. I also have the whole month of March prepared. So the March article is out there already. And so is that, which I think is more magical as far as new beginnings go, the new moon that will happen in Pisces right before Mercury finishes its retrograde. So there's this long-standing conversation between Mercury and the North Node at the time that we're having that new moon in Pisces. And Pisces can be magical, right? It's this in its spirit, it's angels. So there's out of all of this darkness and craziness, which of course a lunar eclipse will be, and we'll be able to see it here in the United States, something rises. So more on that next week. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for sharing my work. Thank you for subscribing, taking advantage of the resources that I have for you out there on my website that are free. Even my hypnosis, which is a great thing to do with the Pisces energy. So if you're struggling to get through all of this, go out there and listen to any of them because they'll all help you feel very relaxed and peaceful. Just remember to download them because otherwise you're going to get a big, fat, loud commercial in the middle of it and it's going to take you right out of your trance. And of course, you can always schedule time to work with me one-on-one and I can create something just for you. All right, guys. I know. Don't shoot the messenger. It is going to be a difficult week. We are going to get through it. And we just have to have faith and trust the process. That's the North Node in Pisces. We have to have faith. We can't control outcomes right now. We have zero control. We only control our response to what's about to occur in the week ahead. So take a look at your charts, look at where this is happening for you, or schedule a session with me. We can sit down and look at it together. But I'm sending you out as much positive vibes as I can so that you can easily navigate the week ahead without too much disruption. I'll keep you guys posted in my dailies about what's going on for me. If there's a lot of shock and awe events, you can let me know in the comments here or in my daily posts to keep me in the loop, and hopefully everything's going great. We'll talk next week, guys. Take care.